everyone. Excuse me. I am here for our What's Up Wednesdays live Q&A, and I am officially sticking to Facebook for this because I tried Instagram last week and it just didn't save the way I wanted it to in order to share it later. So here we are. I'm gonna wait a couple minutes to see if anyone is gonna pop in live to say hello. Hey, Jennifer. We'll see if a few more folks join us, and otherwise I'm gonna jump on in. If you have brought questions with you, excellent. Go ahead and post them in the comments, or you can certainly just throw them out when we jump in. I got four questions via email, and so just know that you can always ask me privately, and I won't say any names. I'll just answer your question the following week, or if you don't care, and you can always just hop on live and ask me in the moment. But we'll just wait one more minute and then I'll start in. If you're local and you live in the seacoast, I hope you're outside today. It's so beautiful. It's really nice just to feel the sun. We've had kind of a cool season so far. Warm February, cool March, cool April. We'll see how it goes. All right, well, let's just hop onto it. The first question that I received was around allergy support. So, seasonal allergies in particular, and what can one do to help support allergies. So I always like to preface any of my answers with the fact that I don't know you. I don't know your specific needs, your own qualities of your body, your body type. That's all very important when assessing what herbs or what practices will work for someone. So what I'm going to offer you in response to this question is some generalized stuff. And when I offer, the herbal side of things, it may or may not be a perfect fit for you, but that's kind of how it goes, where you really want to hone in on your specific makeup and the plants that might be good fits for you, their makeup. And there's so many different options. And I will just always say that to folks too, like if you've tried an herb and it hasn't worked for what it said it was going to work on, don't give up. There's so many other herbs that have the same quality that you might be able to swap to, but it just might be that you and the herb didn't sync up with your own energetics. There's a large span. That's why, pigeonholing herbs and using them like quick fixes and band-aids aren't always helpful in the generalized sense. So that being said, allergies. Okay, so first things first, when we're talking about allergies, we want to talk about the quality of someone who gets allergies, seasonal allergies. So it's a heavy, wet, damp sort of imbalance that happens. So usually you get sinus issues, runny nose, congested digestion, sneezing, of course, maybe itchy, watery eyes. There's a lot of moisture involved. There's some inflammation involved, some irritation, of course, but it's a heavy, wet, damp condition. So anything that's going to create more of that dampness, more of that stagnancy is what we want to avoid, because that'll just exacerbate. So the first thing I like to offer folks, and this works preventatively best, if you were to start doing these things in February before the season really hits for allergies, and that would be liver support. Okay, so everyone can benefit from liver support, but especially when you're gonna get hit with something that brings more imbalance or aggravates your system. So what does liver support look like? It's as simple as ditching the sugar for a little bit. Cleaning up your diet, scooting towards more whole foods and less processed and packaged foods. Dandelion is a great herb that's a gentle liver supporter. Dandelion tea, roasted dandelion roots are a really great sort of coffee substitute. Although it's not entirely tasting like coffee, but it's a similar flavor. That's a really simple way to support liver. Eating more greens, eating more bitters, always super helpful for digestion, for liver support in general, because you want to just keep moving, any stagnancy, any excess moisture and, that wetness I'm talking about out preventively. So getting ahead of it, supporting your liver, starting to just be a little bit more mindful of diet, okay? Drinking water is huge for liver support and actually just overall body function. Thinking of healthy fats as well. So hydrating from the inside out, meaning water and healthy fats as well. That's also gonna help overall function of the body. So that's kind of phase one. Phase two is, I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, everything's blending together now, but go ahead and invest in a neti pot. I know they freak people out. I know some people prefer to use like the syringe, like the forceful sort of syringe spray stuff. Not nasal spray, although that's something separate, but I would encourage you to do some sort of nasal clearing. And I will say, I prefer the neti pot. It's actually very gentle. If you didn't check out my post whenever it was on my Jupiter's Labyrinth page, I have a YouTube video demonstrating how easy it is and talking more in depth about it. But the neti pot is huge because, of course, we're inhaling the pollen, we're inhaling the mites, the dust, whatever it is that is our trigger for allergies. And very often, and almost in every case, it gets stuck up in your mucous membranes. And our sinuses go way back. Some people have larger sinuses. Sometimes it affects the ears. If your ears are popping, you know, that sort of congestion. All of that, those particles can get lodged up there. So the best thing that we can do is to rinse it out. So a neti pot or some form of nasal rinsing is huge, and I would encourage this again preventatively and straight through the fall. Every morning, mornings are best. That's kind of when the mucus has settled and it's easier to get it out, but anytime you can manage it is fantastic. Okay, moving on to herbs. So herbs, there are a handful that I like to work with when it comes around to allergies, but again, I'm generalizing here. I don't know you specifically, so I'd have to, work with you specifically to know your specific needs and get a better understanding. So nettle is the first one. Urtica dioica, stinging nettle. We just saw some on our plant walk this morning, which was pretty awesome. It is fantastic antihistamine, okay, for allergies. It's also a wonderful digestive and liver aid and just general overall nervous system support. So it kind of helps us in the preventative measure as well as the treating the allergy itself. Goldenrod. Goldenrod is huge. Solidago canadensis is the Latin, and it's bitter, which is fantastic, and it has a lot of quercetin in it, which is an antioxidant specific for combating allergens and seasonal allergies. No, it does not cause allergic reactions, I promise you. The variety of pollen that goldenrod offers us, you would have to take the flower and snort it in order to get it up into your nasal cavity. It's not that. The plant, and I learned that from Jim McDonald, by the way, shout out to Jim. I love one of his weed walks. He's like, yeah, you'd have to do this. But anyhow, the plant that is actually at fault, that blooms along the same time as goldenrod, is ragweed, and Ambrosia vulgaris. And what's cool about ragweed is that it can actually help seasonal allergies with certain folks. So I would say 70-30, okay? And you would take it in tincture form and you would take dose drops, and it actually combats the symptoms and the discomfort of seasonal allergies. So little tip there. It's not goldenrod's fault, it's ragweed's fault, but ragweed can help. It can work almost homeopathically, where like treats like for certain conditions. But you would want to get a practitioner, of course, to either you make your own tincture or find a tincture that has been made without. You want to catch it before it flowers, because once ragweed flowers, then yeah, it's going to make things worse. You don't want to use that. You don't want to use it at that point for ragweed. One other thing that I wanted to mention about diet that exacerbates sinus conditions and allergies, I mentioned sugar, but also soy and also dairy. So those are the three components of adding more congestion, adding more of that dampness. It just brings more inflammation and more moisture to the body. And when you're already dealing with that systemically, if you're being attacked by seasonal allergies, you're not doing yourself any favors by continuing to eat those things. So if you don't believe me, you know, eat a whole box of mac and cheese and feel the congestion settle in, or eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's and then notice like, wow, I feel really stuffy all of a sudden. It's the sugar and it's the dairy. So it's a bummer, but it's something to be mindful of so that we can make more conscious decisions. So liver support, diet, hydration, nettle, goldenrod, ragweed, neti pot. Okay, those are all going to help you find better support and comfort through allergy season. All right. So those of you who have joined me, if you have any questions, feel free to just put them in the comments, say hello, ask for clarification, or if you want to email me for next week, go ahead and do that as well. All right, we're going to move on to our second question. All right, so this is a question around the kind of work that I do with the public. And if you don't know how I work with my clients, it's over a 3-month period or more, and it's through wellness programs. And this question was coming up around Reiki, and why do I incorporate Reiki into my work, and why do I make it mandatory? And it's like, well, first of all, I'm kind of bossy about how, when I'm first working with clients, how we work together, and I kind of ask them to do things a certain way to a point, and then the rest of it they call the shots. And one of them is that we incorporate Reiki sessions within our meetings around herbs and wellness. And the reason that I do that is because so much, and actually I might even say all of disease and imbalance is based on a mental, emotional, spiritual plane as well. And in fact, it's something that I always kind of felt and seen in my life, but it's actually founded in a lot of traditional systems like ayurveda, like Chinese medicine. It's the spirit that goes off balance first and then begins to slowly manifest until it's a physical manifestation of that imbalance. And so what's wonderful about Reiki is that you don't even have to talk about, like, you know, like if you've got emotional, spiritual stuff going on and you're not comfortable talking about it, you don't have to. It's not about that. You can just get on the Reiki table, or I also do restorative Reiki, which involves a supported yoga pose, or get into your pose and just receive it. And what's so beautiful about this energy work is that, you know, I'm just the conduit. I'm just sending it to the person I'm working on, and it goes exactly where that person needs it. And it not only does it access what area of the body, mind, or spirit that person needs to kind of take the next step on their healing journey, but it does so in a way that it kind of stirs the pot and it peels back layers of these imbalances. Because for a lot of folks, these are chronic imbalances they've been struggling with for a long time. And it takes sometimes it takes a little while to get to the bottom of it and to go deeper within that healing to really find the source of when things got out of hand. And again, it does very much often connect deeply to an emotional, spiritual aspect of healing. And so Reiki can assess that and access that without even having to have a conversation about it. Although a lot of times we will talk about it and we will have that connection of what is going on and what is your focal point, what is your intention, and that just helps to guide the Reiki more. So it's a really important piece. I think our emotional, spiritual health is a huge part of our journey. And if we're skipping that and we're just focusing on herbs and physicality and just take this for that and eat better, we're missing that whole other spectrum of health and wellness that is vitally important to the grand scheme of things. So that is why I always incorporate Reiki into my programs. And then of course, after you graduate, if you will, and we still work together, which is always your call, you get to decide if you want to continue the Reiki or not. And I will say that like 9 times out of 10, people are like, yeah, maybe we can just do Reiki. Let's just do Reiki for a while and then hop back onto the other stuff. So, and what's great is because people are often hesitant to do the Reiki piece first. So when I kind of not force it, but like, hey, this is what the plan looks like, and get them to experience it, then they understand like, wow, this is really valuable. This is really helping me. So I hope that answered your question around why I incorporate Reiki into the programs that I offer folks. And if there are any questions live, go ahead and throw them up there. I'm happy to answer. The next question is about turmeric. And turmeric has kind of been in the limelight for quite a long time now as like the super herb. And this person's like, should I take it? What do you think? What's the deal with turmeric? What's the deal with all the hype and turmeric milk and turmeric facial cream and just everything is turmeric? Well, this is kind of comes back to my initial question, which is, you know, every person is different and every herb is different, and every person and herb working together will have a different interaction for the most part, okay? So when we're saying, hey, this herb is good for X, Y, and Z, you know, and they put it out on the market, that doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. Not everyone is going to have the right makeup to tune into the makeup of turmeric. So for those of you who might follow energetics or ayurveda, or you just had turmeric, it's typically in curries, right? So turmeric is warming. There is a bitterness and slight, you know, it's not like the hottest thing. It's not like cayenne pepper, but it's heating to the body and it's drying to the body. So if you are someone who already has a heated digestion, you know, maybe veering towards loose stools, maybe, you know, you sweat really easily, you have a hot temperament, fiery temperament, then turmeric probably isn't going to be best suited for you, because it sounds like you already have a lot of that warmth and fire just within your own body's type and makeup, okay? So for someone who is actually cold and dry in their temperament, maybe they are constipated, you know, they're just cold, hands and feet are cold all the time. Hey Alexa, you know, that turmeric might work for them in the short time frame, but because it's also drying, it might make this person dry out a little bit more in the long run. I know I had one client come in who had already been taking turmeric for a while, and she's like, yeah, man, you know, it really gave me the runs though. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you don't need it. It's because that's not the best suited anti-inflammatory herb for you. There are so many different ones, and depending on that person's constitution, that's how we choose the herb. So turmeric is a wonderful plant to work with for many people and for many different types of situations, but it depends on you, and it depends on what you're going for and what your makeup already is and what your symptoms are looking like. Not everyone's are going to be the same. Like even just saying, hey, it's good for arthritis. Well, what kind of arthritis? How is it showing up in your body? Where is it showing up in your body? How does it feel? Is it dry and achy, or is it hot and sharp? These are really important things to consider. And so I'm not saying don't go out and try it. Absolutely give it a whirl. It's not going to hurt you, but it's either going to work or it's going to not work. And one of the things about the world of herbs is that a lot of people, you know, try an herb once, it doesn't work. They're like, it doesn't work, you know. I'm not going to give it another try. I tried the herb thing. And that's one of the downfalls of putting herbs out on the general market without anything but just generalized instructions, without guidance from an actual practitioner who can help better serve the whole picture of your health. So, to the person who asked, go ahead and give it a whirl. I don't know you. I don't know your specific body type or makeup. I gave you a couple little tools and hints to consider. But yeah, go ahead. Let me know how it goes. If you have more questions about it, I'm happy to answer you. All right. Again, if you guys have any questions live, don't hesitate. I have one more question to go, and that was around, when is the best time to harvest dandelion? And how would one do so? And because, again, dandelion's another one of those limelight herbs, especially. There's so many memes going on around the benefits of dandelions, which I love, because, you know, most people do just want to get the weed killer out and spray their lawns. First thing about dandelion, separate from this question, is that they're so important for the pollinators. So don't forget about our bees and birds and hummingbirds even. You know, they need something to eat. So, you know, just leave them for that aspect if you don't want to use them as medicine and food. Think about the pollinators. We got to give them something to eat when they've made their long journey back for the season. Okay, so when would you want to harvest dandelion? Okay, so right now they're blooming around me. You have to, obviously, we're all slightly differently placed depending on where you're tuning in from, but you want to follow the growth of the plant. So it depends on what part of the plant you'd like to use. Leaf, flower, or root. The entire plant is medicinal, so it really just depends on you. But let's say you wanted to do leaves for salad greens or for drying for tea later on. You would want to do it before the flower blooms. And that's because once the flower blooms, the energy of the plant, the vitality of the plant then shoots up to the flower. So that means the flower is the most potent. That's not to say you can't harvest the leaves then, but the potency will be more prevalent before the flower shoots go up. And they'll be tastier too. They won't be quite as bitter. Now, if you wanted the flower, then obviously you would wait for the blooms to come, and you want to get them right when they're bright yellow, right before they're closing back up to become those beautiful seed pod orbs. And for the root, you would want to, well, there's two options for the root. You want to, again, we're following the energy of the plant. So you could wait till the fall, okay, because then the whole growth cycle of the plant has finished. The above ground plant is dying back, and the energy is, again, kind of coming back to the root, congealing, solidifying itself back down into that taproot. And so that would be a good time to harvest, usually around like October-ish, depending on where you are. But you can also do a springtime harvest of the root. And that is when, early on the leaves are just coming up, but they're dandelion leaves, so the energy is still within the root and then starting to move up towards the leaves. And this is just, for spring tonics, it's a different energy. So it's there's a different kind of vitality when you're doing the harvesting of spring greens and spring roots versus the fall. So it really depends on what you're going for and what you're hoping for. Some folks like to harvest the entire plant when the blossom is at full bloom, and just tincture the whole plant together, because again, there's value in the entire plant. So if you're into tincturing or making vinegars and stuff, and you want to, you can just right now go ahead, ask permission first, of course, give back in return, but you can go ahead and dig up the entire plant and utilize it for medicine in its entirety, which is really cool to be able to do with a plant like this, because all components have so much value to them. So I hope that answers your question around when is the best time to harvest. And this really goes for most plants. You just want to follow the life cycle of the plant depending on what part you want to utilize for medicine. All right, so any questions out there? We've got some more time if you'd like. Otherwise, again, I know I'm reiterating myself, but for those of you who might have private questions they want to be answered anonymously, you can certainly email me at jupiterslabyrinth@gmail.com, or you can direct message me on Facebook if you like, and I'll answer them next week. Or you can always tune in live and just ask any questions live. But if I don't see anyone popping in questions the next couple minutes, I'll assume we're good. But feel free if you do have anything. And anything goes, guys, between Reiki and yoga and plants. Oh, hey, Amy. Have any questions for me? I've already gone through the 4 that I had emailed to me. But anything goes, health, wellness, do-it-yourself health, self-care. Oh, good question, Amy. Okay, so how can I use yoga for knee strengthening? Okay, so one of the best poses I have like 3 that just popped into my head for knee strength, and you want to make sure the alignment is key. Okay, so chair pose is actually a really good one, and if your knees are already feeling a little tender, you might even go ease into it and use the wall. Okay, and just go into like a slow chair that way, and that of course is different from when you would be doing it in the middle of the room. But you want to make sure that your knees stay at hips width distance, and when I say hips width, I really mean pelvis width. So you feel those 2 frontal hip points we have at the front of our pelvis, and you want to make sure the knees align right out there, and that your feet, your ankles, if you're doing the wall version, your ankles are right underneath those knees. And you just this is the wall version again, just let your back slide down, your butt slide down the wall until you're feeling the activation in your thighs, and you don't want any discomfort in the knee, so you back out if the weight becomes too much. But you can slowly go all the way down until your legs make a 90 degree and hang on there for as long as you're able. Hands can just be at heart center. You can do the same thing in the middle of the room, like a legit, just regular chair pose. You know, and I know that you practice yoga, Amy. So, but the same thing you would like to do is really be mindful of where your knees are. So hips width distance stance. You might even put a block or something that keeps your knees at that hips width distance, because sometimes they weeble in and out, and that can cause distress on the knees. And you want to be sure that you're scooting your butt back behind you so that the knees are not going over the toes. You never want the knees to go over the toes in chair pose. They want to be backing their way out and behind, you know, towards the ankles. Okay, so it's about scooting the butt back, really drawing the belly up, tipping the hips back just a smidge, and making sure those knees are stable. And again, because this is about knee strength, and you want to be really mindful about how deeply you're going, and you can, you know, do a couple breaths at a time. Again, don't worry about your arms so much. Hands at heart center, roll the shoulders back and down, and just let that chest open that way. Sometimes this is an added component when you're really focusing on a body part that you want to nourish and strengthen. So I would take the arms out of it. So that's one pose that you can work on. The warrior poses, particularly warrior 1 and 2, actually, yeah, 1 and 2 are the ones that I'm also thinking of. And again, you want to be really particular about your knee alignment. So when you're coming into Virabhadrasana 1, you want to take, you know, a good distance stance. And again, going easy if your knees are, you know, tentative, sensitive. You don't have to go super deep knee bend, but you want to be mindful that the knee is not bending past the ankle towards the toes. You want to back it up so that the knee is right over the ankle, and that it's not veering towards the big toe or the little toe, but that your knee is tracking over the second and third toes, okay, as you find that knee bend. Same thing with the hands or the arms. You can keep them at heart center. You can bring hands to the hips, just relax those shoulders back and down, and then find your depth of that lunge and just hold as long as you can. But being able to strengthen all the muscles and tendons around the knee is really going to help to strengthen that joint. Virabhadrasana 2, of course, we're just opening up a little bit wider. The foot placement changes, so our hips are opening up to the side. I would like you to angle your back toe in towards the front foot. So you're actually allowing your hips to be a little bit shifted forward. That just enables less strain on the back knee, which is really important. Same thing goes here. You don't have to go for a super duper wide lunge. That's not important, okay, how deeply you go, but you want to make sure the knee is exactly how I described it in Virabhadrasana 1, and it's not going beyond the ankle. It's tracking over that second and third toe, and you're just focusing on really opening up through the hips and finding the deepest amount of lunge for that knee, whatever the weight, however much weight it can handle. And just kind of cycling through, just those 3 poses can be really enormous, but it's really all about, in the wall pose as well, all about just checking in with where your knees are going, and using, like especially with a chair pose, using a block to like help to stabilize those knees. That's a really huge component. So I hope that's helpful, Amy. Those are really, they're simple, they're basic, but when you do them on a regular basis, it's gonna really help to strengthen those knees up. All right, anybody else? And if you need any clarifying, Amy, just feel free to reach out, let me know. All right, we'll wait another moment or so. If anyone has some live questions for me, feel free. You can always email and private message me too. Oh, you're so welcome, Amy. Please, let me have it. Okay, so yes, so super sensitive skin, definitely unscented. So I would not scent your lotion with anything, no essential oils at all. And I would just make smaller batches so that the shelf life, you don't have to worry about that so much. I keeping it simple with like a nice blend of, I mean, virgin coconut oil is one of my favorites because it's so emollient, but I like to lighten it a little bit because it can be heavier, greasier. So jojoba is a nice one to add because it's closest to our own skin sebum and it absorbs more easily. Depending on how sensitive this person, or I don't know if it's your baby, for babies especially, yeah. It depends. You know, there are other, you know, I don't, you know, I'm kind of veering. Are we talking about Isla? Just so I can, because I know her a little bit. I know her skin type a little bit. I'm assuming we are. But coconut oil would be great, blended with sunflower seed oil as well. And I would do some shea butter. And that would kind of be it. If you wanted to go the herbal route, but not essential oil wise, I would find, you know, in Avena Botanicals make some really lovely infused oils. Or I know you have a garden, Amy, so maybe you're growing some calendula, but calendula is a really wonderful infused oil to use, and it's typically in an olive oil base, which is not irritating, but you could use it as a component because it's antimicrobial, it's anti-inflammatory, it's very soothing, and I think it would serve Isla well. And the other herb, like herbal infused oil, or you might want to make or think about purchasing as a combination, would be chamomile. And even though chamomile can, you know, like if you are in, I'm sorry, I think it's the daisy family. I can't think of the actual Latin name of which family this is. I'm spacing. But there is a rag, actually, is it the ragweed family I'm thinking of? Okay, so some folks are sensitive to chamomile, but those of us who are not, which is the majority, it's so great for sensitive skin. It's so great for, you know, like rashy, heated skin, that it can, and it's super safe. And especially since this is not that essential oil form, you might try using the infused oil. So coconut oil, sunflower oil, shea butter as a thickener. And then, what did I say? Calendula infused or chamomile infused. I mean, and also you can keep it simple just with, when I mentioned jojoba too, you can keep it simple with coconut oil, but I will say there's something about getting that full spectrum of different kinds of oils, because if we're just doing a single oil, yes, it's moisturizing. It might be like the carrier for medicine, like if we're just doing infused oil, but our body needs that full spectrum. There's ceramides, they're different like levels of components that help to nourish our skin holistically. And so that's why it's good to get a variety in there. So definitely, you know, the shea butter has one, the sunflower has another, the olive has another, the coconut oil has another. You can look these things up, but they all have something different and potent to give the skin. So you want a well-balanced combination of those. But the ones that I listed, jojoba, sunflower, olive if you're infusing it for calendula or chamomile, shea butter, I think that would be a really gentle blend for Isla and for anyone. And of course, all unrefined, all organic is really key, especially for pressed oils as well. And you can find most of these, actually not shea butter, but most of these like in the cooking section of, you know, the Hannaford. You don't have to go anywhere special, or of course ordering online right now as well. So yes, and let me know how it goes. Blending lotions is a fun project. And thank you for the questions, Amy. All right, well, I think that might be it. Our viewers are dwindling. So I guess I'll just say signing off, and please keep the questions coming for next week. I'll be here every Wednesday at 2. Email me at any time and I will answer anonymously, or I will answer live if you tune in live and have those questions for me. I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you virtually soon. Thank you, Amy. Talk to you soon.